Every level of a crane operator's career. There's a moment around 240 feet up when the wind catches the load, and the operator at the controls has to decide in under 2 seconds whether to ride it or set it down. Get it wrong, and a 12-ton steel beam swings through scaffolding, through workers, through a curtain wall on floor 18. Get it right, and nobody on the ground ever knows it happened. The men and women who make that call earn between $58,000 and $230,000 a year depending on the seat they're in, and the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics counted 297 crane-related deaths between 2011 and 2017. About 42 per year, with 22% of those deaths being operators themselves. This is every level of a crane operator's career in America, and what it actually costs to climb. If you like breakdowns of how careers actually progress, like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Level 1. The Oiler. You're 21. You have a CDL Class A, a clean drug screen, and 0 hours on a crane. The union local in Cleveland, IUOE Local 18, accepts you into the apprenticeship after a written test, an interview, and a background check. Roughly 400 people applied that year. They took 38. Your first dispatch is to a steel erection job downtown, a 13-story office building, and the foreman points at a 90-ton Grove rough terrain crane and tells you that thing is yours to feed. An oiler isn't an operator. An oiler is the crane's apprentice. You arrive 90 minutes before the operator, grease every fitting on the boom. There are 38 of them on a Grove RT 913OE. Check engine oil, hydraulic fluid, coolant, fuel, tire pressure, outrigger pads, and the load chart in the cab. You sweep the cab. You wipe the windows. You check the anti-tube lock system. You log everything in a pre-shift inspection book that OSHA can subpoena. The wage starts at 60% of the journeyman scale. In Cleveland that year, journeyman scale on a hydraulic crane is $42.18 an hour cash, with a total package of $73.04 once you add pension, annuity, health, and vacation. Your check at 60% is $25.31 an hour cash, $43.82 total package. You're 21 years old, taking home $1,012 a week before taxes. Your friends from high school are managing a Chipotle. The operator's name is Bruce. He has 31 years in the seat, lost the tip of his left ring finger to a wire rope sheave in 1994, and doesn't speak before 8 a.m. He climbs into the cab with a thermos and a clipboard. You stand on the deck and watch him pick a 4-ton bundle of rebar off a flatbed and place it on the 9th floor in 90 seconds, with the boom at 78 feet and the radius at 42. He sets it down without a sound. You don't realize until lunch that you were holding your breath. The first thing he tells you, 3 weeks in, is that the crane operator's job is not to lift. The crane operator's job is to refuse to lift. Wind too high, refuse. Load chart says, no, refuse. Rigging looks wrong, refuse. Ground not certified, refuse. The signal person inexperienced, refuse. He says it once. You write it in the back of your inspection book. By month 9, you've climbed enough boom and ridden enough cabs to recognize a load by sound. The first time you sit in the seat with Bruce next to you, the ground is 14 feet below your boots and the boom is fully retracted on a 30-ton lift. He tells you to pick the load, you move the joystick. The crane lurches, you overcorrect. The load swings 4 feet. He kills the engine. Tells you to get out. Tells you to come back tomorrow. That's the lesson. Level 2, the mobile crane operator. You're 25. You finished the 4-year apprenticeship. You hold an NCCCO certification, National Commission for the Certification of Crane Operators, for telescopic boom cranes with swing cab, Class TLL, fixed cab, Class TSS, and lattice boom truck cranes, Class LBT. The certification cost you $200 in written exam fees, $300 in practical exam fees, plus the prep course your local paid for. You're now a journeyman. Your wage on the mobile crane sheet is $45.92 an hour cash, $79.40 total package. Annual gross at 1,800 hours runs roughly $82,656 cash, $142,920 total package. The BLS reports the median annual wage for crane and tower operators in 2023 at $64,690. You're well above it because you're union and you're in a metro market. The bottom 10% of operators nationally make $39,750. You don't know any of them. You operate a 130-ton Liebherr LTM 1100-4.2 on a hospital expansion project. The crane is worth $1.4 million. The day rate the contractor pays for the crane and operator together runs $3,200 to $4,800, depending on the configuration. Your share of that is the wage. The rest goes to the rental company, the fuel, the insurance, which on a crane this size runs the rental company about $42,000 a year per unit, and the contractor's overhead. The work is more chess than action. You arrive at 5:45 a.m. for a 7 a.m. start. You walk the pick locations with the lift director. You confirm ground bearing capacity. You set outriggers on cribbing, wood mats rated to spread the load across soft ground. The crane weighs 132,000 pounds empty. With a 30-ton load on the hook at 60 feet of radius, the outrigger float can transmit 88,000 pounds per pad to the ground. You learn to read soil the way a sailor reads water. A guy named Wesley, 14 years in, runs the lattice crawler on the same site. He tells you the trick at this level isn't lifting heavier, it's reading the day. Wind is forecast at 18 miles per hour. By 1 p.m., it's gusting to 31. The load chart for your crane derates lift capacity at 20 miles per hour wind speed and shuts you down entirely at 32. You stop work at 1:14 p.m. The general contractor is furious. You point at the anemometer on the boom tip. The lift director documents the call. The contractor calls your rental company. The rental company calls your union hall. Nothing happens to you. The hospital opens 4 months late. The fatality data sits in your head whether you want it to or not. The most common cause of crane operator death is electrocution from contact with overhead power lines. About 33% of crane fatalities involve power line contact. You give every line a 20-foot buffer. You make the signal person confirm it before every pick. You don't trust the spotter. You trust the tape measure. In year 4, on a refinery turnaround in Ohio, the rigger sets the choker on a 14-ton heat exchanger wrong. You can see it from the cab, but you're 80 feet away with the boom at 45 degrees and you can't reach it physically. You stop the lift. You radio it down. The rigger argues. You hold position with the load 8 feet off the ground for 11 minutes while the lift director walks over. He confirms the choker is wrong. The rigging is reset. The lift is completed. You learn that the seat in the cab is also a chair at a hearing. Level 3. The tower crane operator. You're 30. You upgraded your NCCCO to include tower cranes, classes TLL, TSS, and tower. You took the additional written exam, $200, and the practical exam on a hammerhead tower crane, $400. You completed 1,000 documented hours in the seat under a qualified operator before sitting for the practical. You climbed the tower for the first time on a Tuesday in March in Pittsburgh and went up 162 feet. Your wage on the tower crane sheet is $58 and 74 cents an hour cash in your local. Annual gross at 1,800 hours runs roughly $105,732 cash, $186,300 total package with fringes. Tower crane operators in New York City on union scale clear $115 to $130 an hour cash, with annual packages above $250,000 for the senior guys at the top of the list. You're not in New York. You're climbing a Liebherr 280ECH 12-Latronic on a 38-story residential tower, and your view from the cab on a clear morning includes 3 rivers and the football stadium. The climb is the part nobody warns you about. The ladder goes up the inside of the tower mast in 20-foot sections with rest platforms every 30 feet. The total climb on this job is 287 feet. It takes you 14 minutes the first time. By month 2, it takes 9. You carry a lunchbox, a thermos, and a piss bottle because once you're in the cab at 7 a.m., you're not coming down until 3 p.m. You eat in the cab. You pee in the cab. The cab is 4 feet by 5 feet and has a heater that works and an air conditioner that doesn't. The crane sways. Not visibly, but you feel it. In 15 miles per hour wind, the cab moves about 2 feet at the top of an unbraced freestanding mast. In 30 miles per hour wind, the manufacturer requires you to weather vane the jib, release the slewing brake, and let the crane rotate freely with the wind. You shut down picks at 25 miles per hour. You evacuate the cab at 45 miles per hour. You learn to read the cloud line on the horizon the way the mobile guys read soil. A woman named Reagan operates the second tower crane on the site. She's been in tower seats for 11 years. She tells you the trick at this level is the radio. You can't see the load when it's below the slab edge. You can't see the rigger. You can't see the spotter. You're flying blind, and the only thing between you and a fatality is the voice in your headset. She tells you to learn the voice of every signal person on the job within the first week. The good ones speak in clean syllables. The bad ones step on each other. The dangerous ones go silent. In November, the tower operator on a job in Manhattan gets killed when a wire rope fails during a hoist. The investigation runs 8 months. You read every page of the OSHA report when it's published. The rope had been inspected 3 days prior. The inspection missed a single broken wire in a strand that was buried under grease. You start inspecting your own ropes on every shift change after that, even though it's not your job. The oiler watches you do it the first week and asks why. You tell him. Level 4, the lift director and master rigger. You're 36. You hold NCCCO lift director certification, NCCCO master rigger certification, OSHA 30, and a competent person designation for crane operations under 29 CFR 1926 subpart CC. You stopped operating cranes full-time. You direct lifts. Your day rate as a lift director on critical lifts runs $1,400 to $2,200 a day. Annual gross working 220 days runs $308,000 to $484,000. The Glassdoor median for lift directors with 10-plus years of experience is $147,000 base. You're freelancing through a rigging consultancy and clearing closer to $325,000. You don't sit in the cab. You stand on the ground with a tablet, a load chart, a wind meter, a soil-bearing report, and a rigging plan you wrote 3 days before the lift. You sign the lift plan. You sign the rigging plan. You sign the JSA, Job Safety Analysis, and the pre-lift meeting attendance sheet. When something goes wrong, you are the name on every piece of paper in the binder. A critical lift, by definition, exceeds 75% of the crane's chart capacity, or involves multiple cranes, or lifts a person, or moves a load over occupied space. You direct 2 to 4 critical lifts a week. Each one is preceded by a pre-lift meeting that runs 45 to 90 minutes. You walk every man involved through the choreography. The operator, the rigger, the signal person, the tagline handlers, the exclusion zone monitor, the fire watch if hot work is involved. You stop the meeting if anyone in the room can't repeat the plan back to you. You learn the legal weight of the chair you no longer sit in. In 2019, a crane collapsed during a tandem lift in Texas. 2 workers died. The lift director was named in the investigation. The case took 27 months to resolve. He was cleared, but his insurance premium went up 340%, and his next 2 jobs went to someone else. You carry $5 million in errors and omissions insurance. The premium runs $11,400 a year. You pay it without complaint. A guy named Will, who runs a 14-person crane and rigging consultancy, tells you the truth at this level. The cab is the easy seat. The hard seat is the one you take when there's no cab. You're paid not to lift, but to know when not to. Level 5, the general superintendent. You're 42. You're salaried at $186,000 base with a 25% annual bonus tied to project performance and safety metrics. You manage all crane and rigging operations for a heavy civil contractor working on a $480 million bridge replacement and a $270 million data center foundation. You oversee 9 cranes, 6 lift directors, 14 operators, 22 riggers, and a fleet of trucks, trailers, and crane mats worth roughly $34 million in book value. You spend 60% of your time in meetings. Owners' meetings. Contract meetings. Coordination meetings with the structural steel sub, the precast sub, the MEP coordinator. You read submittals. You redline lift plans. You approve crane mobilization schedules. You hire and you fire. You sit in front of a project executive when a lift goes wrong and you explain why in language that a lawyer can read. A bridge girder lift on a Sunday morning in July goes south. The crane operator picks the girder cleanly. The signal person calls swing left. The rigger on the receiving pier hadn't completed the bearing pad alignment. The girder lands 1.8 inches off the center line. Nobody is hurt. No equipment is damaged. The fix takes 3 hours and costs the contractor $14,000 in labor and rental. The owner hears about it on Monday morning. By Monday afternoon, you're explaining the corrective action plan to a vice president who has never operated a crane and will never need to. You document everything. You sign the action plan. You move on. You learn that at this level, your edge isn't your hands or even your eyes. It's your paper. The general superintendent who has the inspection logs, the lift plans, the calibration certificates, the operator certifications, the rigger certifications, the soil reports, the wind logs, and the weekly toolbox talk sign-in sheets. That superintendent survives audits, lawsuits, OSHA investigations, and insurance reviews. The one who doesn't. Level 6, the owner. You're 49. You bought a 6-crane rental and rigging operation in Indiana from a retiring owner for $4.8 million. You financed $3.2 million through a regional bank, put $1.6 million down from your own savings and a SBA-backed loan, and signed a personal guarantee on $2.4 million of the note. The cranes alone, 3 rough terrain, 2 all-terrain, 1 crawler, are worth $9.2 million on the open market. The accounts receivable, the rigging inventory, the trucks, the yard, and the customer book bring the total enterprise value north of $14 million. You don't run a lift anymore. You run a balance sheet. The day rate on a 250-ton crane in your market is $4,800 with operator and oiler. Utilization on that crane runs 62% across the year. Annual revenue per crane averages $720,000. 6 cranes generate $4.3 million in gross revenue. Margins after fuel, maintenance, insurance. Your insurance bill alone is $312,000 a year. Labor and overhead run about 18%. EBITDA at the end of year 3 is $774,000. Crane and rigging companies sell at multiples of 4 to 6 times EBITDA, with the upper end going to operations with strong long-term contracts and clean compliance records. Your range, on paper, is $3.1 million to $4.6 million. You're 54 years old. The phone doesn't ring anymore at 2 a.m. unless something is on fire. You started thinking about an exit during your 4th winter, when a regional consolidator out of Houston called your office for the 3rd time in 8 months. You sign a letter of intent in October. The diligence runs 4 months. The buyer's quality of earnings team finds $182,000 in adjustments you can't defend. The price drops from $4.4 million to $3.9 million. You sign anyway. The wire clears on a Wednesday in March. You sit in your truck in the yard. You watch the kid who started as your oiler 14 years ago. He's a journeyman operator now, running the 250-ton you bought used in your first year. Back out of the gate with the boom over the cab and the load chart taped above the seat where you put it. The expected ending of this story is master crane operator with 35 years in the seat. The actual ending is a man who hasn't touched a joystick in 8 years, signing a non-compete drafted by a lawyer in Houston. The most cinematic part of the career was the climb up the tower mast at 6:30 a.m., with the city dark below you and the radio quiet. The last seat you held was a leather chair behind a desk in a yard office with a window facing the maintenance bay. There are roughly 49,400 crane and tower operators working in America right now. The BLS projects 2% job growth over the next decade, slower than average, because automation, remote operation, and self-erecting tower cranes are starting to thin the seat. The kid showing up to a steel erection job tomorrow morning at 5:30 a.m. as an oiler is making $22 to $28 an hour to grease 38 fittings and watch a 31-year veteran pick steel. He doesn't know that the man who just signed away his company started exactly where he is. He doesn't know that the chair has a price and the price is paid in years. You drive home. The garage has a hard hat on a shelf with a local 18 sticker faded to almost nothing. The chin strap is frayed. You wore it for 23 years and never once dropped it from the boom. You keep it. You never throw it out. 28 years ago, you made $25.31 an hour. Today, the wire was for $3.9 million. The view from the cab is the same. You just don't sit in it anymore.